Now, surface chemistry part 4. From the picture it's very clear. These are the examples of colloids in real life. In colloids part 2, the learning objectives are preparation of colloids, purification of colloidal solutions, properties of colloidal solution, colloids around us, and applications of colloids in our day-to-day life. Let's start with preparation of colloids. There are various methods of preparation of colloids, which is dispersion method and condensation method. Dispersion method further includes peptization, Bredig-Arcs method, whereas condensation method includes chemical method of preparing colloids. Now let us discuss different methods of preparation one by one. The first one is peptization. Peptization may be defined as the process of converting a precipitate into colloidal solution by shaking it with dispersion medium in the presence of a small amount of electrolyte. The point to be remembered is precipitate is converted into colloidal solution in the presence of electrolyte. Now, the electrolyte which is used for peptization, that is known as peptizing agent. Here is the example: freshly precipitated ferric hydroxide. When treated with ferric chloride, the precipitate absorbs Fe3 positive ions and the colloid is formed. The next method is Bredig-Arcs method. In this method, an electric arc is struck between electrodes of the metal immersed in the dispersion medium. The intense heat produced vaporizes the metal, which then condenses to form particles of colloidal size. For example, gold, silver, platinum colloids are obtained by Bredig-Arcs method. From the diagram it's very clear. The electrode is the metal whose colloidal solution is to be prepared. Inside, it is dipped inside the dispersion medium and the complete setup is present in the ice bath so that the vapors get condensed to form colloidal solution. After studying preparation of colloidal solution, we will study purification of colloidal solution. The process of reducing the impurities of electrolytes to the minimum required level is known as purification. Various methods of purification are dialysis, electrodialysis, ultrafiltration. We'll be studying one by one. We will study dialysis and electrodialysis simultaneously. Dialysis, the process of separating the particles of colloids from those of crystalloids by diffusion of the mixture through a parchment or an animal membrane, is called dialysis. In case of electrodialysis, electric field is applied using the metal electrodes and diffusion of the given mixture through using parchment membrane or an animal membrane is known as electrodialysis. This figure shows dialysis process. In electrodialysis, the only difference lies in the presence of electric field so that process becomes faster. Besides electrodialysis and dialysis, ultrafiltration is another way of purifying the colloidal solution. Ultrafiltration is the process of separating the colloidal particles from the solvent and soluble solutes present in the colloidal solution by specially prepared filters which are permeable to all substances except the colloidal particles. For this, collodion is used. Collodion is nothing but a 4% solution of nitrocellulose in a mixture of alcohol and ether, and this is often asked in papers. How to prepare ultrafilter paper? The ordinary filter paper, it is soaked in the collodion, that is 4% solution of nitrocellulose in a mixture of alcohol and ether, then in formaldehyde, and finally it is dried up. The pore size gets reduced and it acts as ultrafilter. Properties of colloidal solutions. Colligative properties. They are the properties that depends upon the number of solute particles in the solution. Now, the particles in colloids are bigger aggregates than those in a true solution. So, the number of particles in colloid is lesser than a true solution of same concentration. Hence, the values of colligative properties like osmotic pressure, lowering of vapor pressure, depression in freezing point, elevation in boiling point are of smaller order in case of colloids as compared to true solution. Tyndall effect. Tyndall effect is the scattering of light by the particles present in the colloidal solution when viewed at right angle to the passage of light, or simply we can say Tyndall effect is the scattering of light when it passes through the colloidal solution. From this diagram, it is very clear. The path gets illuminated, and you can perform this experiment at your home by using a glass made up of glass in which you can have water. Add 1 spoon of milk. A colloidal solution will be prepared, and then in a dark room pass or flash light through it to observe the effect. Color. The color of colloidal solution depends on the wavelength of the light scattered by the dispersed particle, size and the nature of dispersed particle, and the manner in which it is viewed. Brownian movement. In our everyday life, we observe this kind of movement. When there is a football match, the participants, they run here and there in different direction. That is nothing but the Brownian movement. Hence, we can say Brownian movement may be defined as continuous zigzag movement of the colloidal particles in a colloidal solution. Brownian movement depends on the size of particle and the viscosity of colloid. Smaller the size of particle and lesser its viscosity, faster is the motion. From this figure, it's clear that the particles, they are moving randomly in different direction, showing Brownian movement. We have already studied the four properties: colligative property, Tyndall effect, color, and the Brownian movement. Now, charge on the colloids. Colloids particle always have an electric charge. The nature of this charge is C on all the particles in a given colloidal solution and may be either positive or negative. Hence, on the basis of charge, colloids are divided into two categories: positively charged colloid and negatively charged colloid. The example for positively charged colloids are hemoglobin, titanium oxide solution, hydrated metal oxides, methylene blue dye. Negatively charged salts are metals like copper, silver, gold, metal sulfides like cadmium sulfide and arsenic sulfide, acid dye like eosin, and sol of starch and gelatin. Now we will study charge by preferential adsorption of positive or negative ion. When two or more ions are present in the dispersion medium, the preferential adsorption of the ion common to the colloidal particles usually takes place, and it is the ion which is present in excess. Now, let us see how charge by preferential adsorption of positive or negative ion takes place. First example, potassium iodide. Whenever it will react with silver nitrate, it will form silver iodide and vice versa. But in this case, silver nitrate is in excess. So, on reaction, it forms a colloid of silver iodide. Now, question arises, why silver ion gets adsorbed over here? Because it is the only common ion which is present in excess, and hence it gets adsorbed on the surface of silver iodide, resulting in the formation of positive colloid. Let us see the other case. In this case, silver nitrate again reacts with potassium iodide to give silver iodide, but condition is different. Here, potassium iodide is in excess. Now, what will be the charge that will get adsorbed? Here, iodide ions are in excess, which is common with the iodide ion in the colloid, and hence it gets adsorbed and negative colloid is formed. Now, the second example to understand charge by preferential adsorption of positive or negative ion is when FeCl3 solution is added to NaOH. Then a negatively charged sol is obtained with adsorption of OH ion on hydrated ferric oxide. But when FeCl3 solution is added to water, that is in excess of hot water, then a positively charged sol of hydrated ferric oxide is formed due to adsorption of Fe3 positive ion. Helmholtz electrical double layer. This can be clearly understood with the help of this figure. Here we can see this is silver iodide on which there is preferential adsorption of iodide ion. The counter ion is potassium iodide. So, the combination of two layers of opposite charges around the colloidal particle is called Helmholtz electrical double layer. electrokinetic potential or zeta potential. This is also clear from this diagram that there are two layers. One is the fixed layer around the colloid, another is the diffused layer besides the fixed layer. Now the potential difference between the fixed layer and diffused layer of opposite charges is known as electrokinetic potential or zeta potential. The next property is electrophoresis and electroosmosis. The movement of colloidal particles under the influence of an electric field is known as electrophoresis. Negatively charged particles, they move towards the cathode, and the positively charged particles, they move towards anode. Whereas the movement of particles in the dispersion medium in electric field is known as electroosmosis. Next property is coagulation or precipitation. The process of settling of colloidal particles is known as coagulation or precipitation of the soil. Now, ways to carry out the coagulation are by electrophoresis, by mixing two oppositely charged salt, by boiling, by persistent dialysis, by addition of electrolyte. So these are the ways in which coagulation can take place. One common example from our day-to-day life, curdling of milk, or we can say when we have to make paneer out of the milk, we add tartaric acid which acts as electrolyte and helps in the coagulation of milk, which is colloid. Secondly, if by chance egg falls on the ground, how to clean it? Again, egg is a colloid, and if we sprinkle salt on it, it will coagulate and easily it can be cleaned up. Students often get confused between peptidization and coagulation, and this is one of the commonly asked questions. So let us understand this. Precipitate, colloid, electrolyte. These are the three things, but when precipitate gets converted into colloid in the presence of electrolyte, then this is known as peptidization. Whereas when colloid gets converted into precipitate in the presence of electrolyte, then it is known as coagulation. This coagulation plays an important role in our day-to-day life. How? While shaving, if there is a cut, then alum is being used. This alum is an electrolyte which helps in the coagulation of blood, which is colloid. Secondly, when river water, which is a colloidal solution, falls into the sea water, the colloidal particles get precipitated and delta is formed. And these are the questions which are often asked in the exam. Now question arises, what is Hardy-Schulz rule? Greater the valency of flocculating ion added, greater is its precipitation. For negative salts, when positive ions are added, then the order of flocculating power is Al3 positive greater than Ba2 positive greater than Na positive. So there is one question, कि if there is a cut and bleeding takes place, then which will cause coagulation faster, potassium chloride or ferric chloride? So obviously your answer will be ferric chloride, because Fe3 positive ion has got more valency. Now for positive salt, when negative ions are added, the order is FeCN6 4 negative greater than PO4 3 negative greater than SO4 2 negative greater than Cl negative. Again we see that the charge is playing an important role. So greater the valency of the flocculating ion added, greater is the precipitation. Studying the properties, we come across so many colloids in our day-to-day life. Milk, cream, paint, jelly, fog, foam or the froth, and the sunset, which is because of the Tyndall effect. Application of colloids, purification of water by alum, in rubber and tanning industry, artificial rain, smoke precipitation, formation of deltas, clot formation, colloidal medicines, coating of photographic plates are certain examples of application of colloids in day-to-day life. Thank you and have a nice day. Hope you have understood this chapter. God bless you.